Meeting. Okay, well, it's 5 o'clock, so I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order since we do have a quorum with council. All council is present. Gary Harwood is excused. He's actually off fighting fires in California. And I hope Amanda Wheeler will be joining us shortly. So with that said, I don't believe we have any public comments. Jonna, can you confirm that?
Yeah, we don't have any, Mayor.
Okay. So moving on to agenda item number 4, approval of the meeting minutes from November 5th, 9th, and 19th. Council, do you have any feedback regarding the meeting minutes for Jonna?
No feedback.
Okay.
I would motion to approve the minute.
Okay, I have a motion by Councilmember Matsuda to approve meeting minutes from November 5th, 9th, and 19th. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Have a second by Councilmember Goldsmith. How do you vote, Councilman Goldsmith?
Aye.
Councilman Matsuda?
Yes.
Councilmember Archuleta?
Yes.
Okay, and I see Councilmember Wheeler has just joined us. Amanda, we just went through meeting minutes and have approved them as they stand. Do you have any concerns with that? No. Okay. Okay. So moving on, discussion and possible approval of the CARES Act funding for local businesses. This,
Lenise, sorry
Yes.
to interrupt. Mine's really echoing. I'm going to hop off and then get back in.
oh, okay. Let's see if that kills that echo. No, I still hear it. Michelle, you want to mute? Okay. Is that better?
Yep.
Okay, yeah, it might have been the speaker in the computer that I'm sitting at as well. Okay, back to business. Discussion and possible approval of CARES Act funding for local businesses. I sent you all the last wave of funding requests. We had 3 businesses which applied. We do have a deadline to expend these funds. Otherwise, we have to return them. So this actually makes us complete. The 3 businesses requesting funds in this wave were J. Lynn's Barbershop, the Regis, and the Balantrock. Are there any questions or comments about the information I sent you all?
Can you just clarify what the numbers are? Because there isn't a category at the top, so I just want to make sure that I'm reading it correctly.
So the column at the far right is what the committee has recommended funding. And then their request is the numbers that are over. And as you can see, the requests were much larger than any of the funding. We didn't have the funds to make any of those requests kind of whole. So let me see if I can pull it up on my computer.
I wasn't clear on the 51,000 and then the 120.
Oh, okay. The 51,000 was what they had received in other grant funding.
Oh, okay. From
So-
other sources?
Yeah, from other, they may have gotten a PPE loan. They may have gotten a small business loan. So the 51,000 indicates other monies that they received. And then the next column is the funding they requested from the Helper City CARES funds. And then the third column is what was recommended by the board that we've worked with Carbon County, the Independent Review Board, the AOG, the commissioners, and our helper representatives sat on. So,
Okay, that's what I I just wasn't sure on that 51,000. So
No.
thanks for clarifying that.
Okay. Okay. No, good questions. Any other questions or concerns? I think they did a great job with how they dispersed these. And again, we wanted to get this out by December so that we could meet the state deadline. So I would be happy to entertain a motion to accept this.
I'll motion to accept this CARES funding.
Okay, I have Councilmember Matsuda has motioned to approve the CARES funding recommendations. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Have a second by Councilmember Goldsmith. Okay, Councilmember Goldsmith, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilmember Matsuda?
Yes.
Councilmember Archuleta?
Yes.
Councilmember Wheeler?
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you. I know those businesses will be thrilled to be getting some dollars back into their organizations with the COVID impact they've all suffered. Moving on, we have Fire Chief Montoya, who wanted to present to the council regarding the fire department wages. Chief Montoya?
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Council, I just wanted to take a little bit of time and kind of explain where I feel the need for these raises are coming from. I think a lot of times the fire department, people just don't know exactly what we do. And I just kind of want to put it out there and explain a little bit to you guys. Helper Fire requires each member to take 140 hours of firefighter 1 and 2 to certify. They are also required another 120 hours for EMT basic. They also take a wildland firefighter course, which is 40 hours, and hazmat ops, which is 80. This totals 380 hours that these fine people are taking out of their family time, their personal lives to get certified. And it's a great asset to the department. They are also required to attend 2 meetings a month. They average 2 to 3 hours, depending on where we have. Sometimes we go 3 to 4 hours. Each meeting, they gain what is called continuous education. They are required 40 hours of continuous education for EMT, as well as another 40 hours for firefighter 1 and 2. That also goes towards their hazmat certification. Right now, we're averaging 20 to 30 calls a month. That's quite a bit for a volunteer fire department. And these guys have done an excellent job of taking care of those. Our yearly average from 2015 to 2020, our highest year was 2018. We handled 353 calls. That's medicals and fires. Currently, we're at 251, and the year's not over. We just started a new month. As far as coverage goes, we are assigned a 3,500 square mile area. This covers from the Blue Cut on SR6 to Soldier Street. It also goes to the very top of Schofield and the summit of Indian Canyon. We have a huge area, and we do a very good job of covering that area. We've had a lot of incidents in between. One thing I want to bring up is when we started with the COVID-19 virus, the pandemic, we weren't quite sure how we were going to respond, how we were going to handle it. I've got 16 guys on the fire department, men and women, I should say. We were scared. We didn't know what to expect with this pandemic. Frankly, I've got to commend each member of this fire department for sticking around. You know, they put them and their families at risk every time they go out. There's risk of exposure, and they show up. They still show up, and they do it very proudly. There's a lot of pride in this fire department. So if we see anybody from the fire department, give them a big thank you, because these guys and men and women, they're really going above and beyond what I expected them to do. So, with that, I just wanted to, that's about all I got. I wanted to just kind of explain what we do. Unfortunately, emergencies, they don't have a set schedule. They don't have a set time when they occur. There's more than one time we're out of bed on a Saturday at 6 o'clock in the morning on a crash, or we're out all night on a crash, or whatever it may be. But like I say, I've got one hell of a crew, and I'm proud of each and every one of them. So that's all I have for you guys. Thank you for your time, huh?
Does anybody have any questions for the chief?
Thanks, Matt. That was really informative. I had no idea there was so many hours of training involved.
Yeah, these hours, it's gotten a lot harder to be a volunteer. One thing I will bring up is we're down 2 members, and we've been down 2 members since we've taken Keith a year ago. I cannot fill these positions. It's hard to find people that are willing to put in the time. So that's another excellent point to put across. But with that, I just, I appreciate you guys looking into these days for the guys, because I think they well deserved.
I have a couple questions.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay. Did you guys receive any first responders pay because of COVID? Do you know if fire department qualifies for that?
I'm not sure. We haven't received any extra. No, there hasn't been. I know we're possibly looking into hazard pay at the moment, but these guys are going out on the pay that they get each month, and they're doing it properly. So there has been no extra.
Okay.
Yeah, the CARES funding we received, Amanda, was specifically you could not pay first responders. What we could do is take a percentage of their pay, but we only had money for the chiefs to kind of cover some of that. So unfortunately, I would have loved to have done that, but it was not something we could actually do.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Did you have any other questions?
Just, do you apply for grants every year? I mean, I'm sure you do. Have you applied for any this year?
We've applied. We just got a fairly generous wildland grant, and is around $6,000. But grants are very hard to come by these days. When I first got on, we could have done anything we wanted, and we would have got the funding. Now it's either 50% or we're lucky to even get that. They've almost dried up.
Okay. Michelle, you had some questions?
I didn't have a question. I would just like Matt to pass on to all of his volunteers how much I appreciate everything that they have done. And I know right before COVID, I sat down with one of your assistants and we went through some fundraising ideas, which hopefully on the other side of this, I would be more than happy to help you guys out and do whatever I can to help you raise a few extra dollars.
I appreciate that. And right now we're at the mercy of the COVID with gatherings and whatnot. So we're going to have to get creative and come up with different ways, which you can do. We just got to put it together.
Right. It sounds like maybe in 2 or 3 months we can get back to it.
I'm hoping. I'm very hoping.
Okay.
One of the things.
Go ahead, Donna.
One of the things that Chief Montoya did not point out is that these guys use their own vehicles. They put wear and tear on their vehicles and use their own gas money to get to and from, sometimes straight to the calls and to go to the fire department to drive the fire truck over there. And that's takes up a lot of the pay, actually, if you think about it. The training that he mentioned, it does take a ton of time. It's really intense, especially the EMT stuff, where they have to go at their own expense to the college and up north to go take the final testing. And I just wanted to also point out that Price Fire Department makes a heck of a lot more than Helper.
Okay.
That was it.
Oh, thanks. Thanks, Donna. You know, Chief, we are looking at everyone's wages across the city, and it's actually the next topic. So I think it was very informative, and the timing was great for you to visit with us and let us know some of the details regarding our wonderful volunteers. And we do appreciate you guys. So thank you for everything that you're doing and continue to do. And we're looking hard at the budget. The council really wants to do something. So, you know, if we can sit tight, I think you'll reap something. So, okay.
Okay, thank you for your time, council. I do appreciate it.
Thank you, Chief. Okay. Moving on to agenda item number 7, discussion and possible approval on wage increase for city employees. Amanda, thank you for all of the hard work you've put into that. Appreciated all of the feedback. I believe Gary is offsite fighting fires in California, but he had some feedback he provided to you, I think, regarding the spreadsheet you put together. But if you'd like to take the lead on this, since it's kind of your baby, Amanda, and we can talk about it, that would be great.
Sure. I thought it made sense to have something more concrete, something in place that made sense instead of just coming up with numbers. So what I did was implement a helper hourly wage schedule where we could grade everyone, and then according to what grade we could pay them per step. I'm trying to think of the words here. How qualified they were for the position. And then also if there was certifications involved, they could bump up to the next step, which the next step would be a raise. So what we've been trying to do across the board is all city employees is rank them by grade and step. And then every fiscal year, we're going to do a review, and then the results of the review would depend on if they'd get a raise or bumped up to the next step the following year. So right now we're still collecting all the data. We're still grading everybody according to grade and step. But I just wanted everybody to know we're working on this, and definitely by the end of this fiscal year, we'll have a better idea of where everybody sits. And we've gotten input from all the departments, and we just keep making it better. So we'll have something concrete by the end of this fiscal year and ready for the next fiscal year.
Okay. Any feedback from council members regarding the effort? I know you all had associated tasks. I know I did. I pulled out the police scale that they had provided and whatnot. But did y'all have any questions? I know, Michelle, you sent the tenure.
I did, and I also sent the benefits package, so Amanda has that to work with. And Gary provided some very thoughtful ideas, tying raises into reviews and so forth. And I really like the idea that at the end of the review, there'll be a box to check, recommend for another step, another grade, another raise. And so I appreciate the time and the thoughtfulness, because I think we're going to have a working document that we'll be able to use for several years.
Awesome. Okay. Any other action on this topic? Do we want to keep it on the agenda just to keep it on the forefront of our minds, or?
I could just report on it every city council. I can just let you know the status, or if anybody wants to see it.
Okay.
That's a good idea. No, I appreciate it, and it feels really good. It seems like we're on the right track, and I'm really happy with the way it's going. So, and I think all of the city employees will appreciate it too. And for everybody to know, you know, what is an expectation, instead of just wondering, oh, am I ever going to get a raise?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then they have something to work towards. And it's great.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Amanda. I know you've done a lot of heavy lifting on that, and council has thrown in as well. So appreciate all of your efforts to move that challenge forward. So very much. Thank you. Moving on to agenda item number 8, which is discussion and approval of ordinance 2020-2 meeting dates for 2021. Any concerns about the proposed meeting dates for next year?
I'm assuming none of them fall on any holidays or such activities.
I didn't see any that did. The only concern that came up was the meeting time. Traditionally, it was 6 o'clock. We've been doing online meetings at 5. So I think we changed it to 5. But yeah,
Okay,
that's the only thing to point out. But I'd like to go ahead and make a motion to approve the new schedule.
okay. I have a motion by Councilmember Wheeler to approve ordinance 2020-2 meeting dates. Do I have a second?
Does it? I haven't seen it. I don't know how I missed it, but does it say 6 o'clock or does it say 5?
It said 6 o'clock, but Jonna said she would change it to 5.
So should we make the motion to approve it with the change of 5 o'clock?
Okay, so
Yeah.
what I did was actually put on there, due to COVID, the meetings will be electronically, be held electronically and begin at 5 until further notice. But I also left it as first Thursday of each month at 6 p.m.
Okay.
So if you want to go back to the regular meetings, you can just do that.
Okay. All right, so I have a motion by Councilmember Wheeler to approve this ordinance. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, I have a second by Councilmember Matsuda. Because it's an ordinance, we'll be doing a voice vote. Councilmember Goldsmith, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilmember Matsuda?
Yes.
Councilmember Archuleta?
Yes.
Councilmember Wheeler?
Yes.
Motion passes. Okay, thank you. I now need to entertain a motion to recess this meeting and convene as the Community Redevelopment Agency. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Have a motion by Councilmember Wheeler to recess and convene as the Community Redevelopment Agency. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Have a second by Councilmember Goldsmith. Councilmember Goldsmith, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilmember Matsuda?
Yes.
Councilmember Wheeler?
Yes.
Councilmember Archuleta?
Yes.
All right. So now we are convening as the Community Redevelopment Agency. I have asked Adam Long to join us. He has given us a legal summary of the Castle Gate RV Parks request to be considered for tax incentives or tax rebates. Adam, are you available?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I don't know if you can see me either, but
Oh, there you are.
okay, perfect.
Okay, can you sort of give us a context? I know it's been a bit since we've talked about CRAs, so that council kind of understands what we're doing here.
Yeah, so at a very basic level, what everyone calls the redevelopment agency, whether it's called a redevelopment agency or a community reinvestment agency or any of the other names that it's had through the years, it's essentially a separate entity created by the city with statutory powers the city simply doesn't have. The biggest and clearest distinction is giving property or money away. The city can't do that. It just can't. Even if it's a used copier, you still get fair market value for that. The redevelopment agency, on the other hand, has statutory authority to do a number of things like this in the interest of promoting economic development. So these type of incentives are used to encourage projects that otherwise would not be viable, attract development. Sometimes it's to think of it like a carrot to make a project develop in a particular way or with particular features where it otherwise might look differently. So very much this is kind of our carrot as far as development goes. This is what we can use to incentivize different projects or different aspects of projects versus the city land use ordinances, which are effectively the stick. That's tells you what you can and can't do. End of story. These incentives are typically funded by property tax. That's the most common method. Sales tax is also an option. And those are all deals made between the redevelopment agency and the various taxing entities. So city, county, school district, any other, water districts, mosquito district, whatever else exists in that particular area. It's negotiated separately with each of those entities. So basically they choose whether to participate or not and at what level. Does anyone have questions about sort of the basic redevelopment concept?
I do.
Okay.
Okay, so the main question that I had was Helper City gets such a small, or would benefit such a small percentage compared to like the county, for example. Sorry, my little son is crying. My question was, if we approve anything, how does that work? They just pay less property tax, or they pay less in taxes? The city wouldn't have to give them any money. They would just pay less? Is that how that
Kind of.
kind
So
of?
think of it this way. Let's say we want to offer a project some sort of incentive, whether it's just, let's just call it a straight incentive. We're going to give them some money because we want this project a lot.
Okay.
They still pay their taxes just like normal. Real property taxes, personal property taxes, that whole process, as far as the property owner is concerned, is totally normal. Once it gets to the county, when the county is divvying up the property tax pie, essentially some of that gets sent to the agency instead of to the taxing entities. So instead of the school district getting the full 100% of the taxes generated by that development, they'll get some amount less, depending on the particular arrangement.
Okay.
That money then goes to the redevelopment agency, and that's what the agency uses to, fund whatever it's doing, be it incentives or infrastructure or whatever else it could be. So the amount of taxes paid are the same, and in a lot of ways, this should best be thought of as, from a tax entity perspective, as kind of an investment in their future. The argument is, okay, this won't happen unless we, give it this little boost up front.
Mhm.
And then the exchange is we give it a little boost for some period of time. And then after that, we have higher tax revenues. This counts as new growth. So all the entities see higher tax revenues. And then, oftentimes justification comes as far as benefits the community generally. It's a desirable project or provides jobs or a variety of other things. So the taxes are the same. No one is paying more taxes or less taxes, but where the money goes after that fact is what changes in a project like this.
Okay.
Clear as mud?
Mhm.
So then, my understanding is, so then the county would send the money to the agency, and then the agency could reimburse the taxpayer.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
So I had a question, Adam. Let's pretend that we engage in this agreement, in an agreement with a party. What happens if the original owners in 4 years go, we're going to sell? Does the agreement, is it in place, or does it terminate because the original parties involved are no longer involved?
That depends what you want.
Okay.
It can be done either way.
Okay.
Oftentimes, I'd say maybe not a standard agreement, but kind of the standard type of agreement I write requires agency approval for any transfers like that.
Okay.
So the agency would, essentially be able to pre-approve that or prejudge it and say, okay, is this going to meet our economic development goals or not? And that's the big question.
Okay.
There are other times where some sort of transfer is anticipated, or times where the project might effectively be changing hands, but it's a sale of interest in the LLC that owns it. But that's a contractual thing. So
Okay.
depends on the situation, but it can be done any number of ways.
Okay, I was just curious more than anything. What is the role of Helper City in this? So let's say we agree to do something. Are we now a party in conjunction with the entity requesting this going to the other taxing entities, or?
Sort of.
Okay,
And the distinction needs to be made between Helper City and the redevelopment agency. You know, because
Okay.
even though it's the same people in this meeting, we are sitting as the redevelopment agency, not the city. So it's separate legal entities.
okay,
The agency is the one that makes the deals with the developer and with the taxing entities. So, you know, taking a step back, the agency would make an agreement with Helper City for a portion of the, you know, property tax or sales taxes or whatever it is, and then would pursue similar agreements with the other tax entities. You know, as far as there's nothing here that essentially, you know, commits the city to pushing this through, or, you know, inherently aligns the city's interest with the developer. In practice, how it works is the agency and the developer essentially pitch this to the other taxing entities. I mean, in a very real sense, it's a sales pitch about why this makes sense for the community and from a financial perspective.
okay.
And then, you know, so the agency, obviously, if we're going that far, we think it's a desirable project. So we are kind of on that sales pitch team. But there's no, I guess, legal obligation to do any particular thing there.
So what if Helper City is the only one that's in agreement, or the only one that wants to accept his terms, or the only one that wants to participate? Is that a possibility?
That's fine. I mean, the issue is the pot of money ends up being a lot smaller.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, legally, that's totally fine.
Okay.
And it could be legally, all the entities can have different arrangements with, you know, different time periods or amounts, or property tax versus sales tax.
I'm sorry.
We have lots of flexibility here.
So another question, would all of the taxing entities cut the check to the agency, who then in turn would refund the post-performance?
The
Or-
county does, the county treasurer will do
The
all that.
county does that?
Yeah.
Okay. 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 Other questions, concerns?
I have a couple questions. So if we do something for one entity, does that, I mean, to me, in some ways, it looks like favoritism. So I want to be really, really careful about that. So can you address how that works? And then the other thing is, can you require entities to like hire a certain percentage of their employees to be local as opposed to out of state or out of the county?
So to those questions, I'll take the second one first. As far as hiring people or any number of other terms, that can be in the agreement between the agency and the developer. You know, essentially it's called a participation agreement. What that agreement does is it lays out what the developer has to do in order to get this money. You know, whether it's build it or hire people or create jobs or, you know, whatever it is. Those are all negotiated between the agency and the developer. Remind me of your first question again.
So I have concerns about favoritism.
Okay.
So we
Got it.
have like, you know, say there's 50 businesses in town. Why are we doing it for this one and not the other 49, or for 5 and not the other, you know, 45 or whatever?
So sort of two sides to this. From a legal perspective, it's not binding precedent. The agency is not obligated to consider or participate in any particular project. It's totally discretionary. Now, from a practical or political perspective, that risk is there. Really, the way this analysis is supposed to work is that the agency evaluates each project, essentially does its due diligence, and decides, okay, is this a good use of public money? If it's a project that's very beneficial to the community, or if it's a project that brings new jobs or new tax revenue, then maybe it is. If it's done poorly, though, it definitely can't just be favoritism or corporate welfare be the better or the more common term. So it's very important from the agency perspective to do the due diligence and make sure this project makes sense. Essentially that we're getting our money's worth. In any given project, not necessarily this RV park one, but just overall,
Right.
It's a very important consideration.
Okay. Questions, discussion amongst council? Where are you guys?
Are we
I'd like
gonna
to let Adam know that I very much appreciated the document that came through on the email because it's very informative. I had no idea and really learned a lot from what he presented. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. I'm glad it was useful.
It was.
That's
Okay.
the type of stuff I read my kids at bedtime to make them go to sleep. So
Yeah.
So I think Amanda made a good point that Helper is really a small player in this particular project request. Did that? Would y'all?
But he did reflect that in his report. He stated the numbers. Helper was generally, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but a lot less than everybody else.
So really, the biggest bang for their buck is to go after the bigger taxing entities. Is that?
Right, but they have to start with us, right?
Yeah.
So from a property tax perspective, universally the school district has the biggest chunk of the tax levy. It just is anywhere from 50 to 70%, I suppose. So usually school district participation is key on something like that. And then I talked a little bit about potential sales tax based incentives. That gets divvied up a little bit differently, but still the city gets a relatively small part of that.
Okay. Tom, did you have anything you wanted to weigh in on?
Sure. On the amount that Helper City collects on the real property tax, Helper City is the third largest entity. There are 10 taxing units, taxing entities on our property tax. I have it in front of me, and Helper is the third. It's just a little bit under the county. It's less than half of what the school district is, and more than what Price River Water Improvement District is. So it's not an insignificant number, but it's the third highest out of the 10.
Do you have that number handy? Just out of curiosity.
Yes, I don't know if you can see it. This is 2020 real property notice, and Helper City is 7,441. If I just go across the board, sorry, my fingers are in the way. Helper City County General School District, where I have, those are the first three line items. I come back over to the amount, 7,400, 8,400, and 18,400 for the school district. The bottom line is $2,000, and that one is Pri-wide, Price River Water Improvement. Can you see that okay?
Yes, thanks.
If we go back to 2018, prior to development, I'm just going to read it. If anybody wants to see a copy of this, they can. But there was no improvements, no building. only land, and it was assessed, the market value was 25 or 50,000, 52,600 roughly, was the market value of the main parcels of our property. And they generated $850 total property tax, of which Helper's share was $150. Adam, in his analysis, said the numbers looked like they were outdated, and I may have gotten that information from the county website, which did not have our 2018 parcels. Right now, the county has 3 different parcels, all with the same parcel number, and it's just a mistake in how they label it and what documents are available. But 2018 is the most current year prior to development, and it went, the land itself went from 52,000 to when, after we developed, or after we got it approved to be commercial, it went to $314,000 from 2018 to 2019. And then the buildings and the improvements shot it up to a total value of just over $2.5 million. So our property tax went $850, and then in 2019, it was partially built on January 1st of 2019, and the total tax was about $17,000, and then this year it went to $43,500.
So Adam, is it a case that we would vote on a percentage if we were wanting to pursue this, or what's the process here?
Yeah, that's kind of putting the cart before the horse here. First step in the process is to create the project area. Essentially, the agency can exercise its powers within what we call a project area. So a community reinvestment project area is the official name. That's a process. From the word go, that takes, call it 2 months. A variety of documents we have to prepare, notices, we have to hold a public hearing. But we don't really get to percentages until we've created the project area. And that's not to say it can't run somewhat contemporaneously, but first step is to create the project area. You know, hypothetically, in this case, it's essentially the RV park. And then we negotiate the agreement. So the interlocal agreements with the tax entities, and then a participation agreement with the developer. And those interlocal agreements are where you would be voting on a percentage or some other mechanism to determine the amount of money. The most typical arrangement is some percentage for some number of years. For example, we would share 50% of the new tax revenues for 15 years, something like that. Again, lots of flexibility here. If it's a certain dollar amount or different time periods, it really just depends on the particular project.
And who writes the agreement?
Sorry, what was that?
Who writes the agreement? Would we have to?
That typically is me.
Okay.
And these are all negotiations. So, for example, if we're going to the county, I'd write the agreement. We'd talk through it with the county. Once they, if they're conceptually on board with it, obviously we'd make sure the county attorney is okay with the language and whatnot. And, same with the participation agreement. The agency will typically draft that and then work with the developer to iron out details.
Okay.
Mayor, at one time, didn't we discuss just creating the whole city as a redevelopment agency project area?
I think we did, but I don't know if because entities come under that. I think it's available to everyone in the city, and then they exercise a project within that area, if that makes sense. Adam?
Yeah. Let me see if I can explain. So the agency's boundaries are the whole city.
The city, right?
Okay. And within
And
that,
then
the
we still have
agency,
to designate projects.
correct.
Gotcha.
Yes.
So
And-
if we wanted to today, we could vote to designate a project
We-
for the RV park if we wanted to, and then negotiate, work out what that's.
let's today you could tell me to get the ball rolling, basically.
Okay.
If that's where you want to go, that's, I can take instructions and make things start happening.
So
But
what
it,
you're
like I said, it takes some doing before we're actually ready to take final actions. Name big things, a public hearing that requires 30 days notice.
Okay.
So what you're saying is tonight we would vote to develop the agency, and then it's possible that we could have 5 or 6 businesses come before us with projects or things that they have in mind.
That's always possible. There's nothing right now that prevents any given business or potential business from coming to the agency and saying, hey, I think it makes sense for you to participate in this. But as far as process goes, if the agency board here wants to do a project area for the RV park, on one of the next meeting agendas, we would have what's called a survey area resolution. Essentially that kicks it off officially, gives me very firm direction to start drafting the documents. We'd set a public hearing that's, probably end of February at this point. If we do a survey resolution beginning of January, give it 5 or 6 weeks, have a public hearing, and then the project area could be created around the end of February, and we could do agreements at that time too if all the ducks are in a row. But that's not necessary. It can be a process.
And this is all on the city's dime, right? Yeah,
Well,
as the agency.
I would like someone to pay me.
I'm sure.
It depends on the project. Oftentimes, a city or an agency will ask the developer to cover costs for something that truly just benefits one developer. That's certainly not unheard of, and really not unheard of for small cities that don't do this all the time.
What is the cost typically for a project area?
To create so all in from creation to, at least getting through first drafts of agreements, hopefully to final agreements, is probably $15,000. There are ways that can end up being more expensive, or ways it can be less expensive depending on who's doing the legwork and kind of babysitting the process. But that's pretty typical. It could be done cheaper. Like I said, someone has to put in some time and babysit things and get these through the other taxing entities, and just make sure it gets done.
I just wanted to kind of inform Mallory and Michelle why this or how this all got started, because I don't think you guys were on the city council
I was.
when he came to the city for 60,000.
Yeah, I was. Michelle wasn't. So yeah, you should.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
we didn't have this agency in place. We didn't even know what the status of it was. We just know Mr. Lund came to the city council. He wanted us to invest or cover the cost. Was it a water line, Mr. Lund?
Water infrastructure, access into the park with UDOT and electrical.
And that was kind of unexpected. Last minute, it wasn't in the project budget. It came up, it was kind of sprung on him. And so he was looking for us to help with the infrastructure.
And we weren't opposed to helping him. We just didn't have that kind of money in our budget at the time. And not only that, it's not typical for the city to pay for those kind of expenses. But like you said, it was unexpected. But back to the point, we were trying to think of creative ways to help him out as a city because we want to see him succeed. We want to see him be successful. And I think it was Lanice that came up or that informed us about this kind of agency. So she did some research. We did. Adam, were you on that call? Were we asking you questions and advice about the agency?
Yeah, he came to the council.
Yeah, I came down one time as well.
Right. And
Back when you could do stuff like that.
Right. And our biggest concern was, could we retroactive date this project because at the time it wasn't formed. We didn't know anything about it, but we wanted to help Mr. Lund. So it took a couple of years to reactivate this agency. It took some time, but we didn't forget about it. And we thought it was important to have as a city. So, and that, I just wanted to let you know, Michelle, that Mr. Lund didn't just come up with this idea to come to the city for this help. He didn't even know about the committee either, I don't think. He was just at that meeting and we were discussing alternative ways for him to help his business. So in a way, we kind of recommended him to go this route. So I think that's why he's here and why he's asking for it, because we do have this agency now. So just so you know, just a little bit of background on that.
And you know, that infrastructure was put in at his expense, but is owned by the city.
Right.
So it was a way to help, you know, help him with that infrastructural cost.
Yeah, so we're not trying to show favoritism. We actually recommended that he
Come back and be the first one.
Yes, yeah.
Go through the process.
So I think that's why I just wanted to let you know it isn't favoritism in any way. Us as a city recommended that he, you know, look into this. Just so you know.
Okay. So personally, you know, as far, and this is my personal opinion, as far as like the utilities or the water lines or whatever, and I think I was telling somebody within the last couple days, so we personally as homeowners had to pay for sewer and the water lines up to our place, which is 300 feet off the street. That was our choice to build. That was our choice to site our house where we sited it and so forth and so on. And it never would have occurred to me to go in front of anybody and ask for help. It's either you have the money to do it or you don't have the money to do it. So that's kind of just to let you know where I come from on that. It's and maybe this is more of a business thing that I just don't understand completely. But that's my thought process on this, just so you know. And then the other question I have, and I don't know if it's to Jana or Lanice, do we have $15,000 to create this agency?
I think we budgeted 3,000. The agency is created.
Oh, okay.
We did that through the Lieutenant Governor's office. We took all of our action, and the agency sits, and people come to the agency with a project. The agency doesn't go find projects. It comes to the agency and is evaluated and vetted at that point.
Okay, so if we have 3,000 and this is going to cost 15,000, then who makes up the other monies?
That's what we would need to negotiate or put in our contract and determine.
Well, and it's probably a little bit less. Mr. Lund did a lot of sort of the legwork for the plan document, and you know, I'm willing to make sure we're paying for a Chevy, not a Cadillac, too. So call it. I don't want to overpromise, underdeliver, but you know, 10 or 12,000 is probably a realistic number.
And I'll just point out the difference between someone building a home and someone building a massive RV park. When you build a house, you know that you're going to pay for the house and everything for that house to work. Yes. But when somebody is developing a large scale project like this, which brings hundreds of people, if not thousands of people into our town every year, who are spending money at all of the businesses. You know, they're buying gas, they're exploring. There's a difference there. And there's a reason why a city would want to support something like that, you know, because then it helps build our tax base. This is how we build our tax base and how we are then able to give raises to our employees. So, you know, it is different than just a resident and comparing it to a business.
You
It's like
can,
apples and oranges.
you can look up the numbers, but we have paid to help our city in utilities $46,000 since we've opened, and prior to development, that land generated nothing. We've paid $22,200 in sales tax and $17,200 in TRT tax. Now that's the total amount of taxes, which, as you know, some goes to the state, some goes to the county. Helper City gets about 6,000 of that. And I say I paid that, that's not actually true. We've accrued that, and our sales and TRT tax is due in January of 21 for all of 20. So we only pay annually. We did make an interim payment this summer of 6,000 in the sales tax and 5,000 in TRT. So my bill in January would be a little bit less. We've had the average in the industry, the RV travelers spend on average about $50 per night in town. So we've had about 4,000 people come to the park, which means they've spent roughly $200,000 in the area, whether that's in fuel, restaurants, supplies, groceries, whatever. And I think every business owner in town and many in Price will testify that, or state that our campers have contributed to their businesses. So normally these things are done, as Adam said, prior to development, and it's based on a what if we come into your city and we do this development, it will help the city in this way. We're going to add employees. We're going to create jobs. We're going to diversify the tax base with utilities. We're going to diversify the tax base with additional sales and transient room tax. And it's a post-performance thing. So the CRA doesn't pay anything if the developer doesn't do what he said he's going to do. You have a little bit of an advantage now because we have developed, and you can see the tangible benefits of what we have created. And you don't always get that luxury with new projects that are coming in. I hope that all of you feel that Castlegate has been a good corporate citizen so far, and we certainly intend to continue to grow. We just want to be able to get there and get established, which usually takes 5 to 7 years, and don't want to get taxed to death and not be able to survive just due to overtaxation.
Yeah, and I think it's really important that that we are supportive of businesses and we're supportive of growth, because that's what we need for us to be a sustainable community.
Okay, are there any other questions for Adam or Tom? No? Do we want to entertain a motion to begin to move forward with Adam's services and have him get the ball rolling? I don't even know what kind of motion that might be, Adam.
Let's just call it a direction, since there's nothing about a motion on the agenda. You can give me direction and
Okay.
tell me to go get to work on it, and I'll be back with actual stuff to do.
Okay. So since there isn't a motion, we don't need to vote on it, correct? We can just collectively give you that direction.
That is what I need, one way or another. Yes.
Okay. So Councilmember Wheeler, how do you feel about the direction we're going in? You're muted. Oh, no, we do. We have it as an approval on our CRA agenda, Adam. Yeah.
Okay,
So
well, I'll
we
make the
can.
motion to
Same difference. Tell me what to do and I'll go do it.
Okay. All right. So I have a motion by Councilmember Wheeler to work on consideration of, or to work on tax incentives for the Castlegate RV Park. How's that sound, Amanda?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, I will make that motion.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. I've got a second by Councilmember Matsuda. Councilmember Goldsmith, how do you vote? You're muted. Sorry.
Yes.
Have a yes. Councilmember Matsuda.
Yes.
Councilmember Wheeler.
Yes.
Okay. So Adam, you have direction to begin to explore what these
Okay.
agreements might look like, and we will rely heavily on your expertise in this area, having not experienced this as a city since maybe
It's
the
thrilling, let me
90s.
tell you.
So,
Okay. Yeah. So next step, I'll put together a proposed timeline of when these actions will take place. Like I said, probably a survey area resolution at the next meeting, which I assume is, do you have another meeting in December?
no, January 7th would be our next meeting.
So January 7th, in theory, to have that on the agenda. And then in my timeline, I'll set a proposed date for the hearing and get all the wheels turning.
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you for your time, Adam. Thank you,
you bet.
Tom,
Thanks for having me.
for the feedback. I will entertain a motion to adjourn the Community Redevelopment Agency meeting and reconvene as the Helper City Council.
I so move.
I have a motion by Councilmember Matsuda to adjourn the CRA meeting and to reconvene as council. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Have a second by Councilmember Wheeler. Councilmember Goldsmith, how do you vote?
Oh, yes.
Councilmember Matsuda?
Yes.
Councilmember Wheeler?
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you. So we have now reconvened as Helper City Council, and we will move on to council reports. So Councilmember Goldsmith, do you want to start things off?
Sure. So, nothing to report on dark skies. On planning and zoning, we had a couple of new businesses that came in front of the board and were approved. On the Trails Committee of note, there is a couple of young men here in Helper that, and I believe the name is Highland Marco. He's a Carbon County climber. He wants to do the hardware up Spring Canyon at the climbing place there. He's looking to write a grant. So they're a new group, I guess you'd call them new, and they're getting active on doing, and their main interest is climbing, I think, rather than bouldering. But they're looking to do some things next year. Let's see. And then the trails meeting was really about the Gordon Creek campground that they're talking about. As far as streets and the GIS, Boyack and I went around on Tuesday at the Castlegate subdivision. And we're going very slow. There's a lot of errors on the GIS, so we made a list that we'll be turning in January or February. So that's what we're going on. And then we were also looking for Christmas lights in yards, but people weren't done yet. So we will be going out at 5 o'clock on Sunday. So everybody get your yards done and we'll see what we can do. So that's it.
Okay, Councilmember Matsuda.
Update on the museum. We are reopened following CDC guidelines. Our fundraiser has brought in $1,700 so far. So that's going good. And yeah, we're working on the step schedule, or I'm working on the salary schedule. And that's it. We have a tourism meeting next week. So I'll be reporting on kind of a year thing. And I guess Mayor, we can probably do that together.
Whatever you like.
Okay.
Okay, Councilmember Wheeler.
Sorry, let me get unmuted here. Social media posts, I've been working on trying to get more of those out. Anytime I see anything from the mayor or the city or the police department or the museum, just try to share that. And that is engaging more people. I do see that. I'm going to be working on algorithms a little bit more next month to see if we can get more traffic to our city website page and also just more engagement in the social media. I think that will help. It'll get more people to see it. The library board, the new members have been doing great. They're really involved. I'm really happy with what they're doing. We're still working on getting the grant money for the East Carbon Library, but that's going forward. And yeah, I'll be working on our pay wedge scale. I'll just keep you guys updated each month at the meetings, but that's all I have.
Thank you. Gary sent me his report and basically said the whole month's been about Christmas, building the float, preparing for the first big event of the year. So that's sort of where Public Works has been focused. Other than that, nothing large to report. So, and then I'm just continuing to pursue various grants. We're looking at travel stories now, working with Price City on trying to secure some funding that would create kind of an audio story of Price and Helper. We'd each have 10 locations that people, it would basically come up in their GPS and they could find and explore things in both of our communities. So that's kind of fun working with Price on that. We did receive another $75,000 for river restoration on phase 6. So we're continuing to move on that, and January will be a big grant time for the river. Also, for the CARES funding, just so you're all aware, we did sequester a little over $50,000 for the city, and a chunk of that, about $21,000, went to a CPR machine for COVID purposes. So instead of people having to perform CPR, we can utilize a machine. We thought for safety purposes, that was a good investment. And the remainder went to personal protective equipment that we purchased that we didn't know we were going to need, additional cleaning supplies, and then a portion towards both the police and fire chief salaries because we could do a percentage. So we definitely got something to help us continue to stay steady in our financial position. So that's always good news. Other than that, if there's no other business, Dominique, do you have anything or?
No, I'm good right now, unless
Okay.
you guys have any questions or anything.
Okay, all right. Well, that being the case, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion. to adjourn.
One
Sorry.
question. Related to the river restoration, Garrett, I talked with Gary and we had one day where we had a group of people that volunteered to cut down some dead limbs along the river walk. And now that the river is down, you can see there's a lot of boulders and rocks that are in the main channel, and they are tailbone bumpers when you take an inner tube down. And I was wondering if we could have a discussion at all with river restoration on the logistics of not altering the flow of the river, but just moving some of those rocks from the middle over to the side. And there's a group of people that would volunteer, use equipment, just to move rocks over so it was more kind to your tailbone when you're floating the river, for lack of a better word. But I don't know how, moving one rock isn't going to change anything. But if you move several of them, will that alter the flow? Do we need to get any kind of special permission to do that?
I would think we would really want to talk to Eric McCulley because we've worked really hard to create human and fish passage. Now, we haven't done every piece of the river, but I would be loath to create situations because we lack expertise in river management. So I think that's a topic for us to have with Eric, or a question and answer kind of thing, because we've recovered an endangered species in fish. I don't want to derail that effort and whatnot, but I'd be happy to have the conversation with Eric and see what we can do.
The tube floating became quite popular last summer, and we think that it will continue to grow, and also the opportunity to have kayaks. And we want to just be able to give them a good 2.5 mile passage.
Oh, I'm not arguing that. I'm just saying we have to do it with a bigger expertise and an eye towards the whole project. And we've had kayaks actually down the river when it was high. We actually have some video of that. So,
College students, I think, made a video of going down in inner tubes, and rocks or no rocks, they were having a very fun time.
I think everyone does, and that's the purpose of what we're doing. So, I do believe after phase 6, there's a phase 7 and 8. I do think that.
Okay.
So, okay. Did I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion.
I've got a motion from Councilmember Wheeler to adjourn. Do I have a second? Got Councilmember Matsuda. Councilmember Goldsmith, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilmember Matsuda?
Yes.
Councilmember Wheeler?
Yes.
All right. Thank you for your time, everyone.
Thanks. Good night.